Today, we're unpacking a concept that, honestly, it completely flips our standard definition of success right on its head. We spend so much time obsessing over loud, flashy victories, the kind that go viral. But today, we're zooming in on one absolutely extraordinary case study of a guy named Ethan. By looking at how he actually lived his life, we're going to see how some of the most profound, lasting legacies are built completely under the radar. So, here's the big question. Can one ordinary person quietly change thousands of lives? What's really fascinating here is how this question directly challenges our modern obsession with, well, celebrity and scale. We are constantly conditioned to think that to make a real dent in the universe, you need a massive platform, millions of followers, or just endless buckets of money, right? But the data points we've pulled from Ethan's life reveal something totally different. They show us that the biggest, most compounding impacts often start in total, absolute silence. So let's start with Section 1, the myth of success. To get started, we really need to look at this stark contrast that basically sets the stage for everything we're about to unpack. Think about it. We're constantly sold this shiny vision of loud success, right? The fame-driven pursuits, celebrities, billionaires, world leaders. It's always measured by exactly how many people know your name. But on the flip side of that coin, we have quiet impact. And this is perfectly represented by our case study today. One small-town librarian named Ethan. Now, Ethan was the guy who unlocked the library doors before the sun even came up. He arranged books, he cleaned shelves, all in total obscurity. I mean, people literally walked right past him without a second glance. He was essentially invisible. But as we're about to see, that invisibility, it was actually his superpower. Because despite this really quiet, unnoticed daily routine, Ethan held on to an incredibly powerful, driving philosophy. He firmly believed that every single book carried someone's experience, and somewhere inside those pages, someone's future could literally change. He didn't just look at a library as some dusty storage room for paper. No, he saw it as this massive archive of human experience, a place where one person's failure or victory could directly intercept and change someone else's trajectory. He realized he wasn't just organizing books, he was the ultimate gatekeeper to those transformations. Which brings us to Section 2, the first ripple. So how does this beautiful, kind of abstract philosophy actually translate into concrete action? Let's map out the trajectory of a 12-year-old kid named Noah. Picture a rainy afternoon. Noah gets dragged into the library by a teacher. He absolutely hates reading, thinks books are the most boring thing on the planet. Now, most librarians would probably just shove a famous classic in his hands and send him on his way, right? Not Ethan. Ethan took a completely different approach. He just asked Noah one simple, localized question. What do you enjoy? Noah mutters space. So Ethan doesn't hand him some dense, boring novel. Instead, he gives him a highly visual, totally captivating illustrated book all about astronauts. And wow, the payoff is incredible. Fast forward a few months, and Noah is returning again and again, totally transformed into an avid reader. And years later, that same kid earns a full scholarship to study aerospace engineering. During his college graduation speech, he actually credited the librarian who handed him the exact right book at the exact right time. I mean, that right there is the staggering power of one single targeted intervention.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the paper legacy.
Let's look at the next phase of Ethan's life, because this is where a single event snowballs into a highly scalable, yet completely hidden project. You see, hearing about Noah's graduation speech triggered something huge in Ethan. He suddenly realized, wait, I can't personally speak to every single person who walks through these doors needing a boost. So we built a system. He started writing incredibly concise, punchy messages on little slips of paper and randomly tucking them into library books. We're talking things like, you are capable of more than you think, or don't let one bad chapter define your story. These were micro-interventions. And the source material tells us that readers actually started finding these notes. They'd tape them to their bedroom walls. They'd fold them up and carry them in their wallets for years. Ethan had effectively created an automated system for passing hope forward, and he did it completely anonymously. To really wrap our heads around the weight, the profound psychological impact of this system, we have to look at another very specific case study, the woman who almost quit. I want you to picture this exact scenario. A young woman walks into the library. She is completely, utterly exhausted. She's just failed a major career-defining exam, and she is fully prepared to just give up on her dream entirely. She sits down at a table, opens up a borrowed book, and a tiny piece of paper flutters out onto the desk. It reads, "Failure is an event, not your identity." She just sat there staring at those words for several minutes. That single, solitary note, hitting her at the exact moment her resilience was at absolute zero, gave her the psychological boost she needed to try just one more time. And you guessed it, she went on to pass that exam and eventually became a teacher herself. Ethan had no idea this even happened, but his quiet, hidden action literally rerouted the course of her entire life.
Which leads us to section 4, the secret revealed.
Now, Ethan never asked for a round of applause, he never sought out an audience or recognition, but eventually the mechanics of what he was doing were uncovered. After Ethan finally retired, the new librarian who took over his office found this small, unassuming wooden box tucked away in a drawer. Inside, hundreds of these pre-written notes, just ready to be deployed. It revealed this beautifully simple, actionable strategy for changing a community. Step 1, pay attention. Actually notice the people around you that everyone else is ignoring. Step 2, ask what they enjoy. Meet them exactly where they are, just like he did with little Noah. And step 3, pass the gift forward. This wasn't some complex, million-dollar nonprofit operation. It was just a highly repeatable, incredibly effective formula for human kindness.
And here's the best part. Alongside those hundreds of prepped notes was one final letter, addressed directly to whoever took his job. It said, "Please continue leaving hope where people least expect it. You'll never know whose life it might change." This is just brilliant, isn't it? Because Ethan wasn't just doing random good deeds. He was literally building an infrastructure of kindness. By leaving these instructions behind, he ensured that the system he engineered would outlive his own career. The new librarian read it, smiled, and the tradition just kept right on going.
And that brings us to our final chapter, section 5, Small Actions Matter. So let's synthesize Ethan's story and look at what it fundamentally means for how we, you and I, define a meaningful life today. When you step back and look at how this compounds over time, it genuinely changes everything. We started this explainer with the idea that you need these massive, megaphone-level platforms to actually make a difference. But the math of Ethan's life proves something completely different. A compounding legacy is built entirely on the micro level. One single conversation, one specific book recommendation, one tiny handwritten note left tucked inside a page. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that kindness, when you repeat it consistently through microscopic actions over a long timeline, compounds into a massive, life-changing legacy. You absolutely do not need wealth or fame to move the needle of the world.
And that really forces us into a total reevaluation of that opening question. Listen, Ethan never became wealthy. He never made the headlines or got interviewed on TV, but he achieved something so incredibly rare. He made people believe in themselves. If you're sitting there right now feeling like your daily efforts, whether at work, at home, or out in your community, are completely invisible and unnoticed, well, actually, scratch that. You're probably just measuring your success by the wrong metrics entirely. True success isn't about who knows your name. It's measured by how many lives become measurably better simply because you existed. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, hopefully provocative thought to chew on. If a single, flimsy sheet of paper in a borrowed library book can create a brilliant aerospace engineer and a dedicated teacher, what could your smallest, quietest action accomplish today? Seriously, never underestimate the power of small actions. Thank you so much for exploring this with me in today's explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.